Good morning here, good afternoon in other places. It's coming up to the top of the hour, 11 o'clock on the 3rd of May already. So the month has got rolling in a big way. We are joining the John Lavinia Success Mastermind General Group today. And Mastermind Group, if anyone wants to look it up, you can find out on John Lavinia's Success Mastermind website. You can participate in a group of like-minded people trying to pursue their goals, their businesses, their personal objectives, and work on mindset and a whole load of other topics. So here we are. We've just been having a great discussion with Evelyn and with Linda about starting a new business and some of the issues involved. We also run sessions in the group on those issues. So we can talk tax, we can talk company law, we can talk setting up, we can talk product testing, and we do. So if anyone wants to look this up on the John Lavinia Success Mastermind site, you can find details there. Stuart's just dialed in. So we've got some great stalwart members of the group here today. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the third unit in my success formula discussion that I decided to hold. We started off last week and finished up on Friday with the second element. And I'm now moving on today to positivity and belief, which we could speak for weeks about, and we do. So I can't cover everything today, but I thought I'd just try and highlight some of the things we've talked about over the past couple of years in terms of positivity and belief, which is absolutely critical. Unfortunately, the idea that we are what we think and that we can change our life through the power of thought is actually much derided by certain people in certain circles. You can go on and watch a whole bunch of critiques of mindset courses, motivational speakers courses, and find that they are being panned because it's become big business. So you will always have critics. But at the bottom of all this, they can denigrate the approach. But for me, the power of thought, of positivity is no weird science. It's not snake oil sales, that's for sure. It actually works. And we've all seen it, I'm sure, in our own lives. Because in our own lives, we know that the bedrock of success in our endeavors is that belief and that faith in what we're doing. Because without it, you stagger on, struggle, but you can't keep going, you give up, you don't start in the first place. So in order to generate progress and commitment for the projects we've decided on, and then to actually get the energy required to complete those projects, we need this positivity and belief. We really, really do. And I'm sure nobody here would disagree with that, but I'd love to hear your thoughts a bit later on when we open up the mics. But, for anyone watching this, particularly on YouTube later, have you ever tried to work in a company you just didn't believe in? Have you ever tried to complete a task you didn't like or you didn't agree with? How hard was it to do that? How difficult was it to actually complete or to even pick the tools up? And how out of alignment did you actually feel while doing it or while working there? So trying to achieve something that we just have no belief in, no faith in, we can't be positive about. It's like, as we say in the UK, wading through treacle. It's just a heck of a struggle. So equally, though, no one's saying, hey, buy this fantastic mindset course. It's all easy. That's all you need to do. Nobody is saying, and John has never said, John Lavinia, that this is easy, that you have to just sit back, think positive, and everything's going to fall into place and happen. It does have an impact for sure, and things start falling into place, but there's more to it. But we do need this as the bedrock that we can build on. So nobody is saying that's all we have to do. Mindset, the power of thought is I would describe as the chassis in our vehicle. We build all the superstructure on that chassis. All of our efforts are built on that chassis. It carries us along, and it's an absolutely crucial component, but it's only one of the things we need for success. But we'll cover it today because it's so, so important. We do, as I'm talking about in all of these discussions, have to build everything else at the same time and keep ourselves going in other respects. But this is so, so important. So sunbathing in a sun chair or a sun lounger, just thinking positive with no action, well, you get a better tan. You might feel better and more relaxed, but we all know that when the going gets tough, you've got to get on. And I've just been discussing that with Evelyn in terms of how complicated it was to get basic advice to even know how to set a company up in a new territory. Very, very difficult. And Evelyn and I have had a number of discussions in our technical sessions about these subjects, and they end up becoming very complicated. There are lots of moving parts. But at the bottom of this, Evelyn would not have kept going this long had she not really believed in her objective. And I've seen that develop, that objective evolve, and Evelyn's passion behind it evolve, and her positivity evolve with it. And that means she can handle having to talk to tax attorneys, attorneys in foreign countries, and what have you. So this time, discussing this third element in the success formula, positivity and belief. Positivity is not a given. It's not something we have. It's a decision we have to make. It requires positive action and practice. It's a whole of life effort. It takes consistent pushing and remembering and training ourselves to think this way. Other people, by the way, can also read it. They can read it in you. They can read positivity and belief. They can see it in you. They can actually feel it. Attuned people are where people can feel it. I mean, who amongst us wants to be around people constantly who are always negative? We probably tend to avoid them. They drain you. They drag you down. If you're not convinced about what people say about the power of positive thought, then at least believe in it from a self-interested point of view or a selfish point of view, because your positivity and your negativity does have an effect on other people and how they deal with you, how they treat you, whether you like it or not. So we have to take this seriously, whether or not we find it a nuisance, because it does have an impact in our dealings with the whole world. So whether or not you or me comes across as positive, as interested, as engaged, enthusiastic, committed, is definitely going to affect what comes back down the pipe towards you. There is no doubt about that in my experience. Love to hear you all on that in a minute. But it is going to have an impact also, therefore, on the results you achieve. You're going to achieve far more, and you're more likely to get to your goals if you behave in this way and you project positivity, because the feedback you get will be different. So many times I've experienced this in life and been on the other end of it, where negative people just give you such a difficult time. You really don't want to deal with them. And then they're not going to get very far. They'll move on to the next person, the next person, the next person. They're just not going to get very far. We tend to walk away from those kind of people and avoid those situations. They don't give us energy, these people, they drain it. We don't want to be with people that drain our energy, and we have to learn that too. So be positive is so crucial. And if you can't be, and you just don't feel positive at the moment or generally, then I'm afraid you have to force yourself to do it and practice doing it every day if you want to portray positivity outwards to the people you're dealing with, which is essential if you're trying to achieve anything. And eventually, it becomes habit. You can form positive habits. The way you speak, the way you behave, your whole body language can be different. I know it's easier to say, harder to do, but it is crucial that we all have a go at this if we're struggling with it. Ralph Waldo Emerson, he said, don't be pushed by your problems, be led by your dreams. So this is all wrapped up. Our dreams are leading us, but we have to be positive in going towards them. We shouldn't be looking behind us at the obstacles we tripped over before and looking at those in the rear view mirror, as we've often said. We should be looking forward in a positive way towards our dreams. So I love that little quote. And another facet of this is what they call neuro-linguistic programming, shortened to NLP, which some of you may have come across. NLP, again, much derided, attacked by many critics, but the important facet is that they explore positivity and belief and how we're perceived, and they look at language and body language and behavior in terms of how our mind, our subconscious, is affecting what we say and what we do. It's a very important area, which there are many books and courses on. But at risk of oversimplifying, they are looking at mental processes and the language we generate, sometimes unconsciously, from what is buried in our subconscious, which therefore affects how we're coming across. So as a corollary to what I've just said, this ability to realize what we're saying, the words we're using, and the behavior we're portraying is all part of this. It's not just feeling positive ourselves, it's speaking positively, it's behaving positively, it's all wrapped up. We can express different things from a negative point of view or from a positive point of view. We can say things like, I would like to do something, or we can start saying, oh, I have to do it, I must do it. Now that sounds very subtle, but words and phrases like that add up. And we're almost preconditioning ourselves then into behaving within a particular limit, a particular way, because we've said something a particular way. That is coming from inside. So we've got to recognize that language and listen to what we're saying, not what other people are saying only. What are we saying? How are we behaving, and how are we saying it? Because this all feeds back into whether we really are aligned with our goals, and therefore able to be positive and portraying that positivity and broadcasting it. We talked about receivers and broadcasters and transmitters before with Napoleon Hill. This is all connected. So if we can focus on our language, our behavior, that not only affects our own positivity and our effectiveness, but it does, again, affect the perception people have of us and how we're received. Their receivers are tuned in. They're picking these words up. Some people are very aware of this kind of thing and will see you immediately as a different kind of person if you speak a particular way. Maybe as a negative person straight away, before you've even realized what's happened. So yes, critics have attacked all these NLP approaches, but I know from experience that I can fall into talking a particular way, and that way often discloses how I'm really feeling about something. If I pick myself up and realize, it proves straight away, gosh, that's how I really felt about that. Sometimes you don't even know for a while. These are unconscious biases, feelings, inherited behaviors, they're all in there. But we can be aware of this. And I'm sure we've caught ourselves and other people doing this. So we need to look for those clues in our positive approach. We need to look for the clues. We need to challenge our own mindset and thinking. And then we can retune and tweak as necessary so that we're genuinely understanding where any negative feelings are coming from. We're expressing ourselves positively because we're feeling positive, and we're using the language which is aligned with that and being positive. That then spills over into our behavior and our results. So how we actually speak and how we behave sends very powerful signals throughout the day to other people. And how we speak to ourselves produces powerful impacts as well. The words and the thoughts we use internally, same effect. They can be positive and very negative, those signals, and the impacts they have. So if we can maintain a higher state of awareness on language and behavior and what's happening and what we're saying, then we can decide which way we want to be and we can tackle it. So putting it another way, we can accept ourselves, we can accept the world the way we are, the way it is, and we can just embrace that with all the negatives, or we can do something about it and we can make changes. We can be the change we want to see in the world, as Mahatma Gandhi put it. We can be. And this is all the power of thought and positivity, but being aware of what your outward behavior and language is telling you. So if we can deliberately accentuate the positive, that's important. It's not just about avoiding negativity, filling ourselves with positivity. It's about focusing on our good points as well. That's part of positivity. Focus on your good points. We've all got problems. We've all got things that drag us down. We've all got great qualities. They're different from everybody else's. So we need to accentuate those and really play on them for ourselves. Those are our strengths. Not many people are going to do that for you. Some kind people will make kind compliments, but it's up to you to focus on your positives and your qualities and use those as part of your positive initiative. So accentuate the positives, the qualities, yourself. And whether we like it or not, we're embarking on various endeavors, whether or not business related, and we have to sell ourselves. It's up to us to sell our positive qualities. We are a marketplace, as we discussed in one of the talks before. You have to sell yourself and your services. Why should people engage with you? You've got to tell them how you can help them. You've got to be positive about your qualities. This is part of the thinking positive message. And another aspect of this is aiming really as high as possible, as high as your imagination really can possibly take you. And I hope you've had to put yourself in this position before, because you'll know then that it does work. So if you've ever entered an event, participated in a recital or a concert, then you're going to really understand this, because to be anywhere near 100% in your performance on the day at that event, you've got to practice. And when practicing, aim to be 150% proficient, to be anything like 100% when you're under pressure. We've just got to aim as high as we can. This really works. And in that way, we'll go far further than we thought possible. But we tend to undershoot the level we've aimed for. This is human nature. We undershoot the level we've aimed for often. So by aiming very, very high, we're going to try and push ourselves as far as we can towards a reasonable achievement, towards our goal. And if we drive ourselves in this way, then that feeds into commitment, generates the practice and the practice habit needed to maintain results. And we tend to become more proficient. We enjoy it more. It's a virtuous circle. We want to do more. We're enjoying it more. We're getting better. So pushing ourselves high may be very uncomfortable at first, but it becomes easier and more pleasurable. We've seen Grand Slam tennis match players. We've seen World Soccer Championships, World Boxing Championships. An ordinary competitor put into that situation is going to fold, probably make a lot of mistakes and fold under the stress. The really practiced, experienced competitors who aimed high in their practice and would not take second best are going to pull something out of the bag. They just have a habit of doing it, don't they? You look at the match and say, how did they do that with 100,000 people watching? How did they do that? Well, it's baked into them because they aimed high and they practiced aiming high. So when the chips were really down, they could dig deep enough to get near 100% and do something remarkable. So this is what we have to remember. Don't aim to be mediocre and regret almost having achieved it. And that's a wonderful quote that I always like to remember. They aimed to be mediocre and they almost achieved it. Sums up a lot of people. They just sit back and think, well, I'll do a bit, I'll get there. But you're not going to be at the level you should be. You just won't get to your goal because it's painful. As John says, it's not comfortable sometimes. There's a bit of pain and suffering. You've got to practice. You've got to go for it consistently. You've got to work on these things, but aim very, very high. Aim as high as you can think is impossible, and then you'll see what happens. A Henry David Thoreau quote, he says, as a single footstep will not make a path on the earth, so a single thought will not make a pathway in the mind. To make a deep physical path, we walk again and again. To make a deep mental path, we must think over and over the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate our lives. That sums it up. Consistent practice and putting ourselves under pressure to do it time and time again lays down a very deep mental track, which we can then reproduce and hope to attain the consistency John has often talked about. Consistency is it, but being positive as well, aligned with that consistency, is crucial. So today we're just focusing on positivity and belief. Obstacles we've talked about many times. The flip side of positivity, those horrible obstacles. And I spoke recently about this in not taking no for an answer. We just cannot take no for an answer. It's the other side of projecting positivity, not taking no for an answer, other side of the coin. We have to build positive resistance and be proactive in the face of obstacles. So there's going to be opposition everywhere, sometimes considerable. We've got to dig deep then. We've got to draw on the deep well of positive determination in pursuit of those objectives and overcome those obstacles. People in the past have resisted just about everything you can imagine. We talked about this before: railways, the computer mouse, mechanization of factories, the earth orbiting around the sun. It's all been resisted and denigrated and blocked. And in fact, the people that came up with those ideas were often treated incredibly badly, and some of them suffered physical harm. So, the obstacles can be immense, but there are so many examples, and there still are, of people saying no to your product, no to your idea, no to that book, no to your film, no to your job application. We've just got to be so clear about our objectives that we will never accept no for an answer until we've attained them. No matter how many times we've got to stand up, having been knocked down, and have another go. And that's what it takes. So if we can develop that positive brain, it requires effort. It's a conscious effort. Then we start to look in the conscious positive brain for workarounds, solutions. Then eventually we start to ignore obstacles and think, well, there are none. There's always a solution. There's always a work through. It may not seem that way sometimes, but there's always a solution. Maybe not exactly what you wanted, but it'll get you there. It's good enough. And then the famous Napoleon quote that we always come up with, Napoleon Bonaparte, I see only my objectives. The obstacles must give way. Now, if that isn't positive, I don't know what is, but that sums it up. He just found a way of doing what he needed to do, and we have to do the same. We have to ask ourselves questions like, how to get them to give way, how to remove them, how can we do it, what can we do, not crumbs, if, maybe, it's never going to happen. It's so easy to fall into that trapped mentality of these obstacles being boundaries which are really there and can never be moved. Accepting an obstacle for me is like standing on a street corner with a group of people waiting to cross, but the lights never change. Nobody does anything. Have you ever been in that situation? You're looking around saying, why is nobody moving? Everyone's standing there looking at the person in front, looking up in the air, looking at the light. Nobody does anything. We can get into this group thing where an obstacle becomes real and believed and perceived to be insurmountable or perceived to be a block that we can't do anything about. So many times that can happen. We can just lose our positive attitude to overcoming these obstacles. If we fall into this groupthink, it's so easy to do it. Just accepting, okay, that's the way it is. How many times have I had people in meetings saying to me, but that's the way we've always done it. That's industry standard. And you say, but it's wrong. And they look at you as if you've committed the most terrible heresy in history. What do you mean it's wrong? We've always done it this way. Until you have to start pointing out what's wrong with it. But people never challenge these norms and obstacles. Why? We can do it. We've got to be aware to do that. And I talked about that recently again. And if you come to a roadblock, take a detour. All these talks are in the library. No doesn't mean no. It means how. It should mean how. It should mean how. So as a corollary to that, we need to also learn to positively repel negativity, something Evie's talked about very powerfully in the past. Don't allow it to enter in the first place, she says. Get it brushed off the doorstep. She had this lovely visual representation of brushing it off the doorstep before it crossed the threshold. But to do that, we have to be ready in advance to repel this negativity. Spot it a mile off and not let it in, because once it's in, you're grappling with it. It affects your mental well-being. You're then wasting energy trying to repel it once it's gone, and it's challenging your beliefs and your mental state. Don't let it in. Spot it and don't let it in. It is destructive. It's negative. Some people are just that way. They can't snap out of it. They don't want to for whatever reason, and they're going to affect you. So we've got to repel these negative people. And unfortunately, we don't want to be spending all our time in rooms full of negative people. We want to be spending our time with can-do people. Now, yes, you've got to deal with negative people, but you'll immediately see the impact if you spend all your time hanging around them. It does pull you down. Spending time with the right people will reinforce our mindset. Doesn't mean we can't help people who've got genuine problems, but we should not be choosing to spend our whole day invested in negativity, because it will have a bad impact. Consciously making positivity the norm is important. And gratitude, practicing gratitude and thankfulness. We've just got to remember how lucky we are sometimes. Doesn't feel like it some days, but we are, looking around the world at what's happening. So important that we have that in our attitude, that it's our bedrock of positivity. Gratitude reinforces positivity, and it helps us to keep things in perspective. Brian Tracy said, discipline yourself to find something positive in every situation, every day. You attract positivity when you are positive within, which is the whole theme of what we're saying today. It's so easy to let the negatives crowd in and forget what we've actually already got. We should look at what we already have. That's the first thing we should do, and then say, what can I do about these problems? If we start with the problems, they look big and they start to look scary, and we start to feel negative and down if we're not careful. Charlie Chaplin said, you'll never find rainbows if you're looking down. We've got to be grateful, practice being grateful for the progress we've made, the people we have around us that are giving us back a lot. And just have a go. That's the other thing. John has often said this, have a go. Imperfect and done. Just do it. Don't hesitate. Be grateful for where you are, but have a go getting towards the next stage of what you're planning. We talked about this, positively putting a step forward, foot forward, stepping outside the comfort zone. That requires positive thought. Just have a go, but it does require commitment outside the comfort zone. Trying new things constantly can help with that. If we keep trying things, small things, big things, training courses, new experiences, meeting people we never would have talked to, suddenly it becomes a mindset. We're able to put our foot forward because we feel less terrified in doing that. We feel more comfortable in doing that. We can practice this, just like we can practice being positive and using the right language. And we can learn to be positive about new things when there's nothing going for us. The odds are completely stacked against us. Talked previously about Eddie the Eagle, who decided to be a ski jumper with nothing, no background, no athleticism, no training, no equipment, no money. He just turned up and said, please, will you help me? Train me, because this is what I want to do. This is the love of my life. I want to do it. He had no equipment, had his helmet tied on with a piece of string, didn't know what on earth he was doing when he first stepped on one of those jump hills. But he did it, and he got into the Olympics, albeit that he didn't come top. But, you know, he did it, and he did it despite the odds. So you can do these things even if the odds look terrible. But you have to have a go. And as John would say, imperfect and done, just try it, see what happens. Just give it a go. So we can hold a dream, and with a positive can-do attitude, we can give it a go. There are so many more aspects to this, so many more aspects. Generating joy, I've talked about before, filling our mind with joy, which is linked to gratitude, obviously. That all helps to have this gel in which our positivity is brewing, and we're able then to portray it. Perspective helps us keep things in perspective. It really does as well. Gratitude, having a go, trying things. We can see that it's not so overwhelming. Don't get overwhelmed by sitting there contemplating, note-taking, planning, but never trying, because then things begin to look very, very large and very scary and off-putting. So when we work on being consciously positive, we've got to leave time for celebrating the wins too. As Glenn would say in his wins jar, celebrate those little wins. That keeps us going to the next try, the next effort, and helps us stay positive. So I'm going to open up, I think, at this point. We'll do a bit of housekeeping in a minute, but it's great to see everybody here. Evelyn's had her hand up for a while, very patiently. Evelyn, great to hear from you.
Oh, it's good to be here. Adrian, everything you just said, you know, the longer I live, the more I realize that all of what you just said is true. You couldn't have put it better. And I hate to be the one to follow you, but I wanted to get in there before Stuart gets in there and really blows my mind. So, so it's great to see everybody. I just want to talk quickly about perseverance and bias and detachment. I learned recently, and I'm going to mess up the vocabulary, about the cogitative process, where you have, in the context I was learning about brainwashing, okay, where you have images that have been presented to you in the past and they accumulate, and then you have a new experience coming, a new stimulus, and the way you're going to think about it or perceive that new stimulus depends on the images or the input you had before. And as you guys know, I have dogs. I learned with one of my dogs that when a dog is traumatized and they're acting it out because they were traumatized and they're having behavior problems, the thing you have to do is to replace those bad experiences that they had with enough good experiences that they forget about the bad experience in the past. And so that for me has been very important, because I have worked around those people that are just either they're unwilling or incapable of receiving new information, and they persist in saying, well, this is the way we've always done it. And wow, it's so important for me personally to unhitch my wagon from those people and move on. And what I found when I did that, as you guys know, I was working in public education, which is a very, with some very risk averse people, very, they say they want change in education because what they've been doing hasn't worked, but they don't really want change in education. I was fortunate, beyond fortunate, to have a mentor that I'm a language teacher, okay? And the big dirty secret in at least California public education is the way we teach language doesn't work. And people say to you, oh, I had 4 years of French, I can't speak a word. Well, so I was very fortunate to study under the inventor of new methodology, new pedagogical structure of how to teach so that our students can speak. And it was so radical and so revolutionary in the 1990s that, I mean, the bigwigs in Stanford University burned us to the ground. I mean, they were merciless. And I think the most merciless people were the career teachers, that old stodgy stick in the mud language teachers that have been doing it for 20 years. And they're, straight from the textbook, they're just doing everything that didn't work. And they're like, you're not going to tell me that what I've done for the past 25 years didn't work. So they were so invested. Even the textbook companies started to realize that this works, and we better put it in our textbook. And even after it was in the textbook and in the state framework, these teachers still don't want to change. So it was like a constant. I was in the trenches for 20 years. And it is so true, everything you said, how people will resist. It reminds me one time, Adrian, you said that you were associating with somebody in your private world where you have, I guess with your family, I'm not sure if you said that, a lot of positivity and joy and love. And you mentioned that this person approached you and said, I just can't do all this positivity. I'm going to have to withdraw. And so everything you said this morning is just so true. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I've just noticed that the more I persist in exposing myself to this language, what you said about neuro-linguistic programming. I mean, it's really true. That's borne out in the teaching too. Repetition is so important, to hear those linguistic structures and hear the words and hear them in different contexts from different people. And then they start to create a new neural net. There's a physical counterpart to that, where you're developing new neural pathways to facilitate those thoughts. So persistence, for me personally, I'll just speak personally, it's been so important. And also, one last thing, detachment from people, because like you marry the message, not the person, right? I mean, people have ups and downs. We're just, we're human beings are like that. We could be going a low period. Somebody has kind of some cloudy thoughts, some Eeyore kind of thoughts, and kind of down in the dumps. And I can't dismiss that person. I'll put them on hold, because maybe in a month or so maybe they're going to be in a more positive place and I can vibrate with them or resonate with them better. So that's just me. I probably learned that from teaching with teenagers too, because I just don't take anything personally. Somebody comes in with a big cloud over their head, I just detach. I don't take it personally. Hit and run them with something positive and move on. And but everything you said today was wonderful, and thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. It's great to see people.
Great to see you, Evelyn. I'm so pleased that you're pushing ahead with your endeavors as well. We were talking about that at the start of the call. That is wonderful to see, and that is all driven by what you've done as regards these issues, being positive. And despite how tough it was and how complicated it looked when we started talking, you've done it, and you're getting set up, products there, company structures there, all about positive commitment to doing what you've envisaged you were going to do. And as you said, yes, you've got to replace those pre-programmed bad experiences with new ones. And we can do that. We can do that just by trying things, just by having a go, practicing, getting slightly better every time, doing it again and again, and replacing how we feel about them. We can make huge differences that way. You're absolutely right. And there is resistance. As you said, this resistance is massive. People don't like change. They don't like to be challenged on why somebody's doing something different. Our job is to do something different that catches people's attention and solves their problem in a way they're prepared to buy from us to do it. Whatever product, whatever service we're selling, we're trying to catch people's attention. We have to try and look for doing things differently to innovate. Innovation is key. So I'm so glad you said all of that. And NLP, fascinating. Yes, Evelyn.
Can I just add one more thing? And it's so true. People have said to me in the past, so they've suggested that I'm kind of slow. Well, the thing is I'm a tortoise. I'm the tortoise, and persistence. I'm slow and steady. And once I sink my teeth into it, I'm not going to give up. And so that's just me, and that's how I am. But no, I think it's all about who you're around. This group of entrepreneurs, it's a completely different breed of people, and I think it's wonderful. I get so much from being around everybody in these groups, and everything that you've said today was wonderful. So thanks.
No, that's very kind of you, Evelyn. It's great to hear you say that, because we always wonder if we can have an impact, but I think we can. By discussing these things together, by sharing people's experiences, we can make a difference and help everybody get towards their goals. And as I was saying earlier, I really want everyone to have the chance to set something up now, if they haven't already done it. If they're feeling blocked, let's go for it. Let's try and help everyone have a go at doing something, to see how it goes, to practice for the next one, practice getting better at it. We should all have a go. And that's what I think we should be trying to do in the group right now. Give everyone a shove forward to say, go for it. As John would say, imperfect and done, but get on with it. Let's go for it. He will never stop reminding us of that, I hope. And I will certainly never forget it. So, we can't change negative people. We can try and help them, but we need to sort out our own house first, keep our own house in order, so that we can be effective to help those people. You can't change them. They will come to their own realization in their own time if they want to, but you can't force them to that. So we've just got to be there to help and support people, but we need not let that affect our own mindset, because it does. It does. It can take over. Anyway, any further thoughts? That was fantastic, Evelyn. Everyone's looking pensive. John and Stuart, any thoughts at all? No one today. We might.
Yay,
Hey,
me,
John.
me.
There you go.
Hey, I just wanted to acknowledge Evelyn and Stuart, and well, you know what? Everyone here is I consider like family. This is like a core group. Some of us have been hanging around together a long time, and I want to congratulate. Well, I'm just going to call somebody out right now, Catherine, because Catherine has advanced in business and in life. And of course, that's your theme, Adrian, life and business tools. But the application of principles is, I'd be lost without it, which to me sounds like I'm stating the obvious. Of course, you apply principles. That's what they're there to, you do it. Well, not of course, not friggin' of course. No, not to be assumed. Okay. Because some of the groups that I get to hang around with, wow, really? Yeah. So I won't go any further, but you can just imagine. Well, I mean, just go walk out on the street, go to the supermarket, go to the grocery store, and see how people talk to their kids or their spouse. Or it's like, what is this? What planet is this again? How did I show up here? Somebody call the shuttle. Anyway, I know I'm pretty far afield of your topic, but I just wanted to acknowledge everyone. Thank you, guys, and thank you, Adrian. I'll shut up.
No, John, I think it's bang on the topic, because I think by acknowledging each other, that is reinforcing our positivity, which is crucial, because it's so easy to just let your arms drop, feel that you're not getting anywhere, you haven't made enough progress, you're measuring against other people, you should be further ahead. So we've got to acknowledge not only our wins ourselves, but everybody else's too. I think that's very important, John. I really do. Stuart was looking as though he was going to speak, then he switched off his mic. Here he is.
I have to defer to the master, of course, man. What are you talking about? Dude, what a great talk today. You did a great job of distilling all these mindset principles that we've been studying for a couple of years and putting it together in a really great presentation about positivity and belief and sort of, putting your own special interpretation and spin on it. So I really appreciated your talk today. And of course, chock full of mental prompts for me in terms of just things to think about, things to digest, things to incorporate in my daily life. I want to thank you for kind of going through what you're calling, your success formula or the success formula, because it really is a series of reminders about all these things that we've been studying and learning. And it's cool to, read a book and kind of grok something for a minute and then move on to the next thing. But we all need reminders, right? And I think John would agree as well that we all need these constant reminders of, remaining positive, staying in the right mindset, especially in the face of a crazy world or just challenges and experiences that come our way. I think you opened talking about people that are critical of positive thinking, that it's kind of a woo-woo kind of thing. And I think the more time has gone on, and Evelyn, also really great contribution there by Evelyn, thanks, and great to see you because I've been seeing you a while. But the building of neural nets and neural pathways and your Thoreau quote hit me. Not only is he one of my favorite people, but just that idea that the path through the wilderness is not made by one trip, or the path to positivity or right mindset is not made by one thought, right? It's by repetition, it's by consistency, it's by habitual thinking. And you mentioned just things like the language of positivity, right? And this really, something I've been thinking about for a while, and maybe one of these Tuesdays I'll do a little chat about it, but the vocabulary of positivity and the vocabulary of right mindset, and being conscious and aware of the words that we choose to describe things. And you also mentioned self-talk, right? And so the words that we say to ourselves, right? And so I think that there's a whole slew of words that we should probably purge from our vocabulary, right? And the ones that come to the tops of our heads are things like can't, and the negative things like that. But, I did a talk last Tuesday on You're Only Human, right? And this concept of using our humanity as an excuse or limiting verbiage, right? And so positivity and right mindset has a language and has a vocabulary, and the more we use those things as well, and that's why it's not just neural, it's not just NP, it's NLP, right? So there's linguistics involved in there as well. Going back to what you were saying about, there's a lot of criticism that this kind of thing, the positive thinking, law of attraction, it's all, new age, whatever, woo-woo kind of stuff. And yet, again, the more we learn about these things, that this is really science, right? That thoughts really are things. It's not just, it's not just banter. That, thoughts are waves, right? They're vibrations that go out into the universe. They interact with everything around us. They actually do create our reality. And the more we think certain things, then of course, the more that shapes our reality, and the more that it does affect other people around us. And so before you were saying, we can't change other people, but the reality is that by changing ourselves and being conscious about how we think, and of course, act in this world, because you mentioned that it's not just about how we think, right? It's how we behave, right? And going back to things that John has talked about, thoughts become feelings, and feelings become actions, right? And so the equation doesn't just stop with our thoughts, right? It's carrying that through into how we interact with the world as well, physically. I'm reminded of the Hermetic principle of correspondence, right? And a lot of people will stop at the as above, so below, but the next part of that is as within, so without, right? And so as we, create this new paradigm within ourselves, then that helps to shape and change the world around us, right? And attract experiences to ourselves, or create opportunities, open doors, and shape our experiences in this world. I'm thinking of The Mental Diet by Emmett Fox, which was also sort of spoken about by Earl Nightingale, right? The 30-day challenge in The Greatest, Strangest Secret, and how challenging it really can be. You're talking about dispelling negativity, right? And to me, this concept of the mental diet, and really just metacognition, and watching our thoughts, and seeing what comes into our mental space, and what we give mental real estate to, and what we, as Emmett Fox called it, what we consume, and what we entertain, right? And it's one thing to have a fleeting thought, or to be aware of a negative thought, and then to dispel that, right? The Stoics talk about that our greatest responsibility is to be the vigilant guardians of our minds, right? At the gates of our minds, because we all have, right, the concept of what negative biases, right? That I think we have like 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them can be negative, right? And the challenge, of course, is to brush away all the negative thoughts, the negative self-talk, and really, like you were saying, accentuate the positive, embrace the positive, consume the positive, and that which is good for us. The concept of vibration, right? And Evelyn mentioned resonance, right? And so to me, when I think, again, that's another Hermetic principle, a principle of vibration, that thoughts are vibration, right? And they go out into the world, into the universe for eternity, right? Nothing stops that. It just continues out into the universe. But the concept of sympathetic vibration I've talked about before, where you pluck the string on a guitar or on a violin, as Ingrid would probably agree, that then all of a sudden the other strings on the soundboard start vibrating and resonating with the string that you pluck, right? And so we have a choice in terms of what note we want to play, right? And how that affects everything around us. We're energetic beings, right? And again, it's easy to just sort of say that and give it lip service, but the reality is that we have an electromagnetic field that emanates from our body. And in fact, we have one that emanates from our brain, which is an electromagnetic organism that creates its own electromagnetic field. And guess what, right? We've talked about our heart also creates its own electromagnetic field. And if you look, some of you may remember in school, we did the experiments with the iron filings and the magnet, and you shake the paper and the iron filings, trace the electromagnetic field of the magnet, right? And the earth is also an electromagnetic organism, and we do the same thing. And if you look at our own electromagnetic fields, right, they go out much farther than just our body, right? And so they do interact with other people. So everything you're saying, man, great job today. Just what I needed to hear. Thank you, man. Good on you. Cheers.
Thank you, Stuart, for a fantastic summary of the points and of the year's discussion as well. Many of these things we've talked about, they brought a lot of things back to me. So thank you for that. And brought back to me the Yoda quote as well. Do or do not, there is no try, which always makes me laugh, but it's absolutely right. No, I think, we all know about all of these techniques we've got to deploy. As you say, we've read one book, move on to the next one, but these things have to be held together as a bundle, and we've got to consistently practice all of them and remind ourselves what they are, because it is a formula. Everything has to be pushed forward in parallel to be effective. So yes, good to remind ourselves of all the ingredients in the cake, because it's not a one ingredient cake. We can't just be positive and hope it's going to rise and bake well. It won't. We've got to do a lot of other things too. So yeah, and words that we have to ban, agree, Stuart, as I was saying. I think it's been pointed out to me, if you start saying things like, I have to do this today, I must do this today, that is negative. Now that may seem incredibly subtle, but it is when you think about it. You should be saying things like, I'd like to get this done today, I'd like to do this today, I want to do this today. Because if you're saying I have to do it, you've got to start questioning, is this one of these negative millstone tasks hanging around my neck? And if that's one of the things supposedly linked to your goals, you've got to start questioning why you're feeling like that. So it tells you a lot. This really tells you a lot, this kind of language. We can pull ourselves up and say, what did I just say? How did I say it? It tells you a lot. So agreed, Stuart, this mental housekeeping and cleaning, we can do it, and it can tell us valuable things about ourselves. Love that. The mental diet book and the 30-day challenge. How many of us remember to complete that? From Earl Nightingale's discussion. I have the prayer somewhere pinned up. The extract from the I think the New or the Old Testament that he recited as well. And the Stoics, yes, guarding the gates to our minds, so important. So all of those things we need to remind ourselves of. But that was a wonderful summary. Thank you, Stuart. As always, it's a deep well that you carry with you and share with us in all your talks and all your contributions. So I think everybody appreciates that. Great to see you back. Great to see you back and talking. It's wonderful. Anybody else for any thoughts today? This was the third element in the discussion, just trying to remember what it is we set out to do a couple of years ago, as John said, in some cases. What were we talking about? So I started with routine and habit, crucial, passion and desire, now positivity and belief, and we're going to move on to talk about taking action, which is probably John's favorite element in the formula. And one.
Hi, Adrian.
Hey, hi, Linda.
So what's coming up for me is your level of awareness. Depending on where you are in your awareness depends on, how you can harness that power of positive thinking, and how much you realize that it affects you. I mean, 2 years ago, I had no idea. You know, now all these books that we're reading, you know, basically they all tell us the same thing, but in a different way. The book that we're studying now, it does give us the same message, but it's just written in a different time. And I like the old readings. Yeah. So it's that, you know, when negative things happen to you, you just kind of like, I just kind of now like harvest the good and try to forgive the rest. Try to look above the goal. Like you're supposed to be that person that where your goal is, you're supposed to be positive as that person. But when you know, have that negative experience, you just got to kind of look beyond that to try to pull you there. And that's what I try to do. So, yeah, but without awareness of any of that, I don't think I would be able to do it. So, and it's like you said, the repetition. Yeah. So.
That's great, Linda. It means it's there. Those thoughts are there when you need them to remind you of how to filter, how to approach, and how to analyze things so they don't get you down. You learn from them. We've all got to learn. The best thing we can do is learn from mistakes. Most powerful lessons we'll ever have, providing we can handle them the right way and take them the right way. But you're absolutely right. I have this crazy philosophy I've developed during all of these talks over the past 2 years where you can actually change the past. I didn't think you could change the past before, but you can. Because by reacting now differently, you've actually changed the past by changing the outcome of what the past would have produced. So you have changed the past. And I didn't think that was possible, but that was a stunning discovery that I made one day when thinking about everything people had said. If we interpret what has happened to us, even in a short moment ago in the past, we can change the future outcome, which thereby changes the past by changing its outcome and its impact. So you are an object lesson in that, Linda. You've done it, and you're now pressing ahead with new projects. You're not letting anything stop you, and you've been able to filter and prioritize and say, this is what matters in my new set of objectives. I'm going to go for it. And you're able to push everything else aside, and you're clearing everything else up. You're focusing on your one thing, and that's great. That's just it's worked. It's worked. Yeah, well done.
Just learning too to not react to things and respond instead. I mean, that's been huge for me. So, an attitude. Without a good attitude, you're toast. So,
absolutely, and responding to things crucial. I absolutely agree with you, because if we allow things to affect us a particular way, then that situation or that person that has caused it has won. They wanted to produce result. They wanted an impact, or the situation would have had that impact, but you won't let it, because you can analyze it and deal with it, process it. If we're prepared to do that, things don't affect us unless they should. We can take on board what we choose to take on board. We have this receiver we can tune and say, I'm accepting that. Yes, I learned from that. It was my mistake. I got to do better. Or we can say, no, this is just negative, critical, useless, evil or nasty stuff. I'm filtering it out. And it takes effort. And as you say, awareness. That awareness is it. Great, Linda. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adrian. Great. Thanks, Stuart and John. And yeah.
And as always, and thank you for all those wonderful posts. In fact, you just posted about us being a magnet. And the fact that we are a magnet, we will attract what we put out. So if everyone looks in the Facebook group, that was a recent post of Linda's, who's been posting wonderful sayings every day or every other day, which I love seeing. I must say, they always lift the day. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that. Missy's got a hand up. Haven't spoken to Missy for a little bit.
Hello, Stuart. How are you? How's everybody? I wasn't going to say this, but there is another way to change the past. Through Neville Goddard. I'm sorry, Stuart. His name just comes up. I just can't help it. Through the shears of revision, you can go into a traumatic experience and change how you reacted at that time, or maybe even make it not happen. And it will slowly come through the decades, and it will help you to change now. So that's another way to do it. And Linda is leaps and bounds. She's like Neville Goddarding all over the place, this woman. I don't know how she's doing it. And she does it with the most gentle spirit. And but with all these books, and by the way, I know I've said this before, because I always repeat myself. But one of my favorite quotes is by Calvin Coolidge, our 20th president. He said, persistence is the greatest force in history. It's more powerful than compound interest, and is the only thing that will solve mankind's problems. Of course, we all have to be working to do that. But you can read 10 billion books. I had half these books up in my, on my bookshelf. If you don't apply them persistently and consistently, you just have a whole bunch of knowledge up here that is really nice to have, but it doesn't get you nowhere. So once you start applying, it's like a new highway opens up. Did you see that Seinfeld episode when Kramer paints the lanes and the lanes go, oh man, this is great. The lanes are wide now, That's how it feels when you start applying the knowledge. It's science, it's physics, it works. And I love it. And I love being on these platforms and hearing the wisdom of everybody else that comes here. Thank you all.
Missy, that's wonderful to hear you say that. And that's the power of the mastermind group. Anyone watching on YouTube, it does work because we get to talk about these things and try them together. And it's just so much easier doing it with other people. There's motivation from other people, pulling you along when you're having a down patch, encouraging you. It works. That's the whole idea of a mastermind group, sharing thoughts, sharing ideas, sharing different experiences. And that's what we do. So glad to hear you say that. Certainly works for me anyway. But give it a go. Try it. You don't know, you might find a whole new your why. What is your why could change by trying something you never even thought of trying, and suddenly it's gripped you with a passion. You never know what you're going to find. I've spoken to a number of people that tried a hobby or tried something out of the blue, of course, and it changed their whole outlook. And that's what they wanted to do. It may be just around the corner. So yes, try new things and try and apply all these techniques. They will lead you in unexpected directions for certain. Great session. Anyway, that was wonderful. We do have another one tonight. Ivier is appearing at 5 o'clock Eastern time, which I think is 10 p.m. UK time at the moment, with her corporate curio session. Management, team relationship issues, problem solving, and many other interesting topics. And Ivier is a great and very powerful speaker, as you will all know. So anyone that can join, Ivier is on 5 p.m. Eastern time US. And then we're into the general session tomorrow and Books for Britain with Mandy as well. So we've got that to look forward to. And the rest of the week coming as usual. John back in harness, which is good to see. And we will see you all later. But thank you so much for all those contributions. Remember that do or do not do. There is no try is so true. We've just got to do it. We've just got to do it and positively do it and take action. And that is what I'll talk about next time. Thank you very much for joining. Great to see everybody. As John said, such a lovely family to be with. Thank you all. Take care. Bye. Goodbye.